Stories number 1. My mom's boyfriend is the father of the girl I've hated since 2nd grade, and she expects me to be family with her. I'm 17 and my parents split when I was 5. They've both dated here and there, but neither of them ever had a relationship that lasted more than a few months. I got used to it. Mom would bring someone around for a dinner or two. They'd vanish, and life would go back to normal. Dad had girlfriends too, but nothing stuck. Honestly, I figured that's just how things would be until I went off to college this past May. Mom sat me down and said she was dating someone serious, and wanted to introduce me right away. I felt my stomach sink. She was being cagey about who it was, dodging questions. Acting all nervous, I pressed her, probably 100 times over a few days, but she kept saying things like, "You'll see, I want you to meet him in person." Finally, she slipped up and admitted it was someone I already knew about. That narrowed it down, but she still wouldn't say the name. That drove me crazy. I started running through people in my head, trying to figure it out. Then it hit me like a freight train. There's this girl from my grade, Maddie. We've hated each other for literally a decade. Her dad is divorced too. I asked Mom straight up, "Are you dating Maddie's dad?" She didn't confirm, but the way she went silent told me everything I needed to know. I lost it, I told her. "There is no way in hell I'm going to pretend Maddie is family. You've lost your mind if you think that's happening." She begged me not to overreact, said I should give it a chance, and that she wanted us to be a real family. That's when I told her to go F herself, not my proudest moment. But I was so angry I couldn't hold it in to understand why. You need the history, Maddie, and I go way back. We met in kindergarten, and for the first year or two things were fine. Then in 2nd grade, everything blew up over something stupid. We were doing a class activity where everyone had to cut out shapes for an art project. She asked me to help her because her scissors weren't working right. It wasn't even me who ignored her. It was one of my friends, sitting next to me, but she got it into her head that I was the one who refused from then on. She hated me. She spread rumors, called me names, tried to embarrass me in front of classmates. I tried ignoring her, but it never stopped. In middle school, she told me I'd die a virgin because I was too ugly for any girl to like. That stuck with me. In group projects, if teachers paired us together, it was guaranteed failure. We'd fight the entire time and end up with zeros by high school. I was done trying to deal with her. I reported her for every little thing she did. If she looked at me wrong, I'd tell the teacher. Eventually last year, she got suspended for a month because of all the write-ups. That was the only time I felt peace at school, so yeah. The idea of Mom dating her dad and expecting me to play house with Maddie? Absolutely not. I called Dad and asked if I could move in with him full-time instead of doing 50-50 custody. He didn't even hesitate, just said, "Of course, you're always welcome here." So I packed up and left. Mom wasn't happy. She said I should make an effort because she loves her boyfriend and wants us to blend families. I told her, "You made your choice. You picked Maddie's dad, so enjoy your new daughter. I'm out." She got upset and said, "Maddie's not my daughter. She doesn't even like me. But I love her dad, and I need you to at least try." I told her flat out no, I don't visit her anymore, and I refuse to spend time with her boyfriend or Maddie. She thinks I'm being unfair, but I don't see why I should force myself into that mess. So now I'm at Dad's, and honestly, I'm happier. There's no drama here, no one trying to make me play pretend family with my lifelong enemy. Mom keeps texting, but every time she brings up giving them a chance, I shut it down. Maybe that makes me the bad guy. But after everything Maddie has said and done, after years of fighting and misery, there's no way I'll ever call her family. Update. My mom's boyfriend is the father of the girl I've hated since 2nd grade. So a few weeks have gone by since I wrote about this whole mess. I've been living with my dad full-time now, and honestly, it's been a lot calmer. Dad doesn't pressure me about Mom or about Maddie. He just lets me be. We watch games together. He helps me with college stuff, and it feels like I can breathe again. But things with Mom, yeah, they've gotten worse. Not long after I left, Mom asked me to come to dinner at her place. She said it would just be her and her boyfriend. I'll call him Mark. No, Maddie, I agreed. Mostly because I thought maybe it would help her realize that I'm not against her. I'm against being shoved into this fake family with Maddie. Dinner itself was awkward. Mark tried to make small talk about school and sports, and I gave short answers. He seemed like he was trying, but I couldn't stop thinking, this is Maddie's dad, the same Maddie who made my life hell for years. At one point, he even said something like, "I know you and Maddie have history, but kids grow up, people change." That set me off, I told him. She hasn't changed. She tormented me for years. And now you want me to just pretend it never happened? No thanks. Mom gave me that look she gives when she's trying not to yell at me in front of other people. But she was clearly pissed. The next day, Maddie cornered me at school. She flat out said, "So you think you're too good to be family with me?" I told her, "No, I just don't want to." "Why would I? You've treated me like garbage for 10 years. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're so dramatic. That was kid stuff. Get over it." That's the thing, though. I can't just get over it. You don't forget being humiliated, bullied, or told no one would ever love you. That stuff sticks after that run-in. Mom blew up my phone. She said Maddie told her I was rude, that I attacked her, and that she doesn't know how long she can handle this division. I texted back. Then because I'm not doing family dinners with Maddie, I'm not taking family photos with her, and I'm not pretending like the past didn't happen. She hasn't replied to me in almost a week. Meanwhile, Dad says if Mom really wants to make this relationship work, that's her decision, but it's not on me to play happy family. He even said, "You're old enough now to set boundaries. She doesn't have to like them, but she has to respect them." That made me feel a little better, because sometimes I wonder if I'm just being stubborn. But here's the kicker. One of my friends overheard Maddie bragging to someone in the hallway that she won because now I have to see her at holidays once our parents get married. That nearly made me lose it. Told my friend I'd skip every single holiday at Mom's house before that ever happens, so yeah. Right now, I'm no contact with Mom until she reaches out again. I feel bad sometimes, but then I remember how much she brushed off what Maddie did to me for years. It feels like she's choosing her boyfriend's kid over me, even if she doesn't see it that way. Final update. My mom's boyfriend is the father of the girl I've hated since 2nd grade. It's been a couple months since my last post, and a lot has happened. I figured I owed you all a final update, since honestly this whole thing has consumed my life more than I'd like to admit. So, Mom finally reached out after weeks of silence. She texted me saying, "We need to talk, just us." I agreed, because as mad as I've been, I still love my mom. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. She started off saying she misses me, and she hates how strained things have become. I told her flat out, "I miss you too. But this isn't my doing. You put me in this position." She tried to defend herself, saying she didn't choose who her heart loves, that Mark makes her happy, and that she thought if I just gave Maddie a chance, we could start fresh. That's when I told her everything I'd been holding in for years. Every insult, every dig, every fight with Maddie. How it all piled up until school became miserable at times. I even told her the exact words Maddie said about me dying a virgin and being too ugly for anyone. Mom went quiet. Like really quiet. She said she had no idea it was that deep. But then she ruined it by saying, she was a kid. She didn't know better. I lost it. I told her I wasn't going to be gaslit into minimizing what happened to me. I told her if the roles were reversed, and I had bullied Maddie for a decade, there's no way anyone would expect her to just brush it off and play family. The conversation ended with me telling her this: "If you want to be with Mark, that's fine, but stop asking me to make Maddie my sister. I won't ever. You either accept that boundary, or you risk losing me." We didn't talk for a couple weeks after that. Then, out of nowhere, Mom showed up at Dad's house. She pulled me aside and said she'd thought about what I said. She admitted she can't force me to like Maddie, and she promised she'd stop pushing the family narrative. She still hopes, in her words, that time will soften things, but she said she won't make my relationship with her contingent on Maddie anymore. That was the best I was going to get. And honestly, it's enough for Maddie. She hasn't changed. She smirked at me in the hallway just last week, but the difference now is I don't feel like I have to put up with it. I've got my dad, my friends, and I've even started seeing a school counselor to work through some of this resentment so it doesn't eat me alive. Here's the bottom line. My mom's relationship with Mark is her choice. My relationship with Maddie is mine, and for now, those two things are going to stay separate. I'm not going to lie, it still stings. It feels unfair that I have to navigate this when I didn't ask for it, but I've realized I can't control who my mom loves. What I can control is how much I let Maddie get to me and how much I allow myself to compromise my own peace. So, no big explosive ending, No magical reconciliation, just boundaries and a slow path forward. Thanks to everyone who gave advice. Even the tough stuff, I think, without some of the perspective I got, I would have either caved to guilt or cut my mom off completely instead. We've landed somewhere in the middle. Stories number 2. Decided I'm not hosting Christmas again after last year's complaints, and my family is furious. So last Christmas was my very first time hosting the holiday at my house. I'm 35, single, and I bought a small place about 3 years ago. It's not huge, but it's mine. And I've been slowly fixing it up. Last year I thought, hey, why not take on Christmas? I wanted to prove to myself and everyone else that I could step up and handle a grown-up holiday. I went all in. I'm talking hours of cleaning, making sure every corner of the house was spotless. I strung lights across the porch, hung a wreath, even bought one of those cheesy inflatable snowmen for the yard because I figured the nieces and nephews would love it. Inside, I put up the tree and decorated it with ornaments I've been collecting. My dining room isn't that big, but I pushed furniture around so I could fit in an extra folding table and enough chairs. The food. Let me tell you, I stressed myself out over that meal. I'm not a professional cook, but I wanted everything to feel special. I did the turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, rolls. The whole deal. I even made 2 pies from scratch, pumpkin and pecan, because I knew my dad loves pecan. I spent 2 straight days prepping and cooking, and by the end of it my back was killing me, and my kitchen looked like a bomb went off. Christmas Day came, and my family showed up. My mom, my dad, my younger sister Kelly and her husband, my older brother David with his wife and 2 kids, plus a couple of cousins who usually swing by. It was crowded, sure, but I thought it felt cozy. The kids tore into presents in the living room. We had Christmas music playing, and it honestly felt nice, but then the comments started. They weren't said in a screaming, dramatic way, more like little digs. My mom, while eating, casually said, "The turkey's a little dry, but it's your first time hosting, so don't worry." My sister Kelly, when she went to get seconds, muttered, "Wish there was more space. It's kind of cramped in here with all of us." My brother David joked, "You should have borrowed a bigger table. Feels like we're at the kids' table at Thanksgiving." I laughed it off at the time, but inside I felt crushed. I had spent so much time, effort, and money making this happen. And instead of a "thanks for hosting" or "this looks great," I got criticism about the turkey and my small house. After everyone left, I was exhausted and kind of angry. I told myself, well, lesson learned, hosting Christmas isn't worth it. Fast forward to this year. Around October, my mom started asking about plans. She said, "So you'll be hosting again, right? We should figure out the menu." My sister texted me in November about what time she should bring the kids over. Everyone just assumed I'd do it again, like it was a permanent assignment. So I finally said no. I told them flat out, I'm not hosting this year. It's too much work, and honestly, I didn't feel very appreciated last year. Someone else can take it on if you want a big get-together. And wow, you'd think I announced Christmas was canceled. My mom acted shocked and said, "You're punishing us for a few harmless comments?" My sister Kelly told me I was being petty and dramatic. My dad just sounded disappointed, saying, "I thought we were starting a tradition at your place. Here's the thing, though. Why should I bust my ass again just to be criticized? I get that no one means to be cruel, but I didn't hear a single thank you last year. Not when I heard about dry turkey and cramped space. And that's it now. The family group chat is blowing up. My mom suggested we just do it at my house again, for simplicity's sake. And I had to repeat myself. No, I'm not hosting, end of story. My brother David said I was overreacting and that nobody's meal is perfect. My sister sent a passive-aggressive, "Guess we'll just do Christmas with whoever actually cares about keeping the family together." So now I'm sitting here feeling torn. On one hand, I know I'm not wrong for wanting appreciation, and for refusing to take on something that makes me miserable. On the other, I do feel guilty. It's Christmas, and I know family matters. I don't want to be the reason it falls apart, but I also can't shake how crappy I felt last year after everyone went home. Haven't decided if I'll even go to wherever they host. Part of me wants to just have a quiet Christmas on my own this year, order Chinese food, and watch movies, but I know if I do that, the guilt trip will be even worse. That's where I'm at. Do I cave for the sake of peace, or do I stand my ground and let them figure it out? Because right now, it feels like they only care about the convenience of my house, not the effort it takes for me to make it happen. Update. I refused to host Christmas again after last year's complaints, and it did not go smoothly, so when I last posted, I had drawn my line in the sand and told my family I wasn't hosting this year. I thought that would be the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. Around the first week of December, the group chat started heating up again. My mom kept sending Pinterest recipes and decoration ideas for your house. Like she hadn't heard me say, no, my sister Kelly texted me privately saying, look, just get over it. We all had fun last year. You're making this bigger than it is, I repeated myself. I'm not doing it, period. That's when my brother David tried to mediate. He called me and said, man, you're being too sensitive. No one remembers those comments. It's about family, not perfection. I told him I didn't care if they remembered. I remembered, and it stuck with me. And honestly, that was the truth. It wasn't about a single turkey comment. It was about the total lack of gratitude. So, instead of picking up the hosting duties, what did my family do? They all dragged their feet. Mom said she wasn't up for it. Kelly said her house was too messy. And David claimed he was too busy with work. Nobody wanted to step up by mid-December. It was clear nobody had made a plan. At this point, I figured they'd either rally and pick a place last minute, or it just wouldn't happen. I started making my own quiet backup plan. Chinese takeout and Die Hard on the couch December 23rd. I get a call from my mom. She sounds stressed. So, I guess Christmas is canceled this year since you won't host. Canceled. As if my house was the only possible place for Christmas to exist. I was honestly floored. I asked her, you mean out of all of you, not one person can host? Not Kelly, not David, not even a potluck at someone's place? She sighed and said, it's just easier at yours. That was it for me, I told her point blank. I'm not doing all the work while getting none of the appreciation. If Christmas doesn't happen this year, that's not on me. That's on the rest of you for refusing to step up. She hung up pretty quick after that. Christmas Day came. I didn't hear from them until about 2 p.m. when Kelly sent a picture of her family eating Chinese takeout on paper plates with the caption, Merry Christmas, thanks for nothing. My brother sent me a text later saying, Mom cried because we didn't have Christmas, hope you're happy. Meanwhile, I actually did have Christmas. I ordered a feast from my favorite Chinese place, watched movies, and even FaceTimed with a couple of friends who invited me to drop by their gatherings. Was it quiet? Yes. Was it peaceful? Also yes, the guilt did creep in, though at one point, when my mom's text came through, I sat there wondering if maybe I was the jerk after all. But then I thought about the reality. I busted my ass last year, got criticized, and this year everyone assumed I'd just do it again without thanks. The moment I said no, instead of adjusting, they let the entire holiday crash and burn so they could blame me. That's not on me. So now it's the day after Christmas, and the fallout is real. Mom hasn't spoken to me since that phone call. Kelly is cold as ice in the group chat. David at least texted me. You know you could have just sucked it up, right? But then he added, guess it's not all bad. Chinese was good. I don't know what next year will look like, but I've decided one thing for sure. I'm not hosting again. Not until my family learns that appreciation is part of the deal. Final update. Refusing to host Christmas changed how my family handles holidays now. It's been a while since the Christmas fiasco, and I figured I'd post one last update to close this out. The fallout lasted longer than I expected. For a good 2 months after the holiday, my mom was distant. Kelly barely texted me, and when she did, it was curt, and usually involved some guilt trip about how sad Christmas was without me hosting my brother David, and I talked a little, but even he had this underlying tone of, you should have just gone along with it. At first, I felt awful. I'd look at pictures people posted online of their big family gatherings and feel like I'd ruined mine. But then, as weeks went by, I realized something. I didn't ruin Christmas. I just refused to carry the entire thing on my back. My family chose to let the holiday die rather than step up themselves. By February, things started to thaw. My mom invited me to dinner at her place, and it was just the two of us. No Kelly, no David, no cousins. She admitted she had been hurt, but also confessed she understood my point. She said, I didn't realize how much work goes into hosting until you stopped. That was probably the closest I'll ever get to an apology, and honestly, it was enough. Kelly took longer. She didn't really come around until Easter when she hosted brunch at her house. And guess what? The first words out of her mouth were, God, this was so much work. I laughed and said, "Yeah, welcome to my world." We didn't get into a deep heart-to-heart, but I think she got a taste of what I'd dealt with. She hasn't apologized outright, but she's been nicer to me since. David's still David. He told me I'm stubborn as hell, but admitted the pecan pie he made for Easter was almost as good as mine. That was his weird way of acknowledging I'm not totally useless. The biggest shift, though, is that now holidays are being rotated. Mom hosted Mother's Day, Kelly took Easter, David volunteered to do 4th of July, and there's already talk of Thanksgiving being at my cousin's house. For the first time in years, it doesn't feel like everything defaults to me. And honestly, that's the win. It's not about never hosting again. It's about not being the automatic choice. Just because I said yes once, I'll probably host something again someday. But on my terms, not because I'm guilted into it. Looking back, refusing to host last Christmas was uncomfortable as hell. It caused drama, it hurt feelings, and it definitely made me the villain in some people's eyes for a while. But it also forced my family to wake up to the fact that hosting is work, and that appreciation matters. So if anyone reading this is on the fence about standing up for themselves in family dynamics, here's what I'll say. People will guilt you, call you petty, maybe even ostracize you for a bit. But if you cave, nothing changes. If you hold your boundary. Things might get messy, but eventually people adjust. Next Christmas? Who knows? Maybe we'll all be at Kelly's house complaining about her turkey being dry, but it won't be my problem. Stories number 3. Ida for refusing to pick up my half-brother from school until his stepmom apologizes to me. The initial situation happened months ago but is being made an issue again with the school year starting. Sorry, this is long and might be hard to read. BC, I'm still so irritated. I 17F have a half-brother 8M. We share a mom, but have different dads. I don't see him often since he primarily stays with his dad, who I'll call Jeff. Jeff has been married to Amelia for a few years now, who has 3 kids prior to their relationship. And now she and Jeff have had 2 more kids together. None of their children are old enough to drive. Amelia doesn't like me because she sees me as an extension of my mother. They had a falling out since my mom dated Amelia's brother, who turned out to be abusive, and Amelia called my mom a liar, and I don't want to force a relationship with her, so I just leave it alone. I rarely see my brother outside of birthdays, and have no relationship with his half-siblings. I live very close to my brother's school, and while I generally don't like kids or being around them, I've agreed to pick him up from school, a handful of times when Amelia couldn't. Jeff's hours don't allow him to do so, and she's a Som. This all happened this past May. I'm fairly alternative. Dyed hair and multiple facial piercings, and am used to getting odd looks or questions from children. But I never had to get out of the car to pick my brother up. So this was never an issue. My brother was sick and needed to be taken home early. So Jeff called and asked me to pick him up. And I wasn't busy, so I agreed. This was the first time I've needed to actually enter the building. But I was on the approved pickup list, so I didn't have any issues. I went inside, got to the nurse, got my brother, and dropped him off back home with 0 problems until Amelia called me the next day. I was unaware she even had my number, so I declined her calls at first. When she began to scream at me for getting her in trouble with the school, I asked what she meant, as again I had no problems picking him up, and she started to berate me for scaring my brother's classmates. Apparently one of the other children that had been in the nurse's office had been scared of me, as well as a few kids asking questions when I walked past open classrooms. I don't have any extreme body modifications, literally just hair and piercings, and the boy from the nurse cried to his teacher, same class as my brother, who notified Amelia, and requested I no longer do pickups. I don't even think this is legal. Maybe not the right word, but I mean I should be able to make a complaint about her requesting this, since it's based on physical appearance, seeing as I was caused no disruption. And the only people I even saw were the secretary front desk admin, the nurse, and the kids in the nurse's office. Either way, Amelia told the teacher that was not an option, but she would tell me to take out my piercings. Next time I was at the school, I feel like multiple empty holes in my face would be scarier than the piercings. But that's neither here nor there. So whatever I told Amelia, I would not be taking out my piercings every single time I picked him up, and that usually I don't even go inside the building or see anyone for this to be a problem. I don't pick him up often, but I have quite a few piercings. It takes me around an hour, sometimes longer, to take them all out, clean them and put them all back in. Those little balls are obnoxious to screw back in with long nails and shaky hands, while I wouldn't be cleaning them every time I picked him up. It is a long and tedious process that I don't like to do more than necessary. She told me it wasn't a big ask, and while I agree it mostly isn't, I feel more disrespected than anything because I think that's a fairly unprofessional way for the teacher to behave. Amelia told me the teacher had every right to protect her students, and that either way I shouldn't be punishing her because she wasn't the one asking. I was even more offended by this because I'm not a threat or danger. I literally am just alternative. I just realized I didn't mention this before, but my outfit was also entirely appropriate. It was plain black sweatpants and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shirt. Amelia said this was the reason she didn't allow me to be around her kids. I've never asked to be around them since I don't like kids. And I said if she has an issue with me, she can lose my number and find someone else to pick my brother up, when she can't. She continued to scream at me and tell me I was just like my mom, which was when I finally hung up and blocked her. I've seen my brother maybe twice since then. Since I primarily communicate with him through Jeff. We play Roblox together, but he doesn't have a phone or social media, who told me he was disappointed. And I told him he has no authority over me, so I didn't really care what he had to say. And the issue hasn't been discussed since then. Until today my brother starts school next week, and Jeff called me and told me Amelia requested I start picking my brother up again. I said no, and reminded him of what happened last time, and he began to get very aggressive, saying that they weren't asking for much. I told him it was no longer about the request, and it was how his wife spoke to me, and said I wouldn't do them any favors of any kind. He began to guilt-trip me and ask how my brother would feel, knowing his sister can't stand to be around him, and threatened to not let me come to my brother's birthday in a few weeks. I told Jeff, I don't care about not attending my brother's birthday, since I don't even like kids and I would just see my brother another time. And he told me he wouldn't let me be around my brother until I apologized to his wife and agreed to pick my brother up from school again. I told him I would only agree to pick my brother up with an apology from Amelia, and hung up. This puts me in a kind of difficult position because I could just see my brother when he has visitation with our mom, but we aren't on speaking terms right now, so I would have to break our temporary no contact in order to do this. I live with my dad and his mother, and see my mom 1-2x a month. Max, my dad and grandma say, I should just suck it up and apologize to Amelia. They don't have a good relationship with my mom and she hasn't been allowed to step foot in the house since I was 12. But I really don't want to do this. Me and my brother aren't particularly close, but we have a good relationship, and I don't want to jeopardize it because of an issue I have with his stepmom. Since I know he enjoys spending time with me because I'm his only sister, all of Amelia and Jeff's kids are boys, so I don't want to hurt him over this AITA for refusing to pick my brother up from school until his stepmom apologizes. Edit. A few of the replies seemed kinda confused since the post is so long it can get hard to understand. But to clarify, I'm a girl, and I have zero relation to Jeff or Amelia. Me and my brother share a mother, and stay with our respective fathers. His being Jeff. Amelia is Jeff's wife, my brother's stepmom. I do not live with Amelia and Jeff. I've decided to take advice from a few comments and call the school and ask if there is a policy stating I cannot pick my brother up with facial piercings, and I will likely either agree to disagree with Amelia depending on how the call with the school goes, plus her reaction to the call, or resume contact with my mom to see my brother during visitation. Thank you for the advice and support. Sum of comments. Commenter 1. NTA manipulation and entitlement abounds with Amelia. Stick to your guns. Amelia obviously needs you to pick up your brother but has absolutely no intention of apologizing. Have you rung the school and asked if what Amelia has said is actually true? There's a lot of alternative out there. The reactions described seem over the top to me. Side glances and openly gawking. Yes, freaking out and running screaming to the teacher? Are you sure that Amelia isn't lying? Or at minimum stretching the truth by dramatizing the hell out of it? Reply. I never thought about calling the school. Amelia never really gave me a reason to think she was lying, but I think that's because we have such little interaction anyways. I also thought the reactions sounded dramatic, but I have had a child genuinely start crying at the sight of me once, albeit I was in full Juggalo makeup that time. Commenter 2. Call the school, she's lying. They don't discriminate anymore. Most teachers now have piercings and tattoos. She's starting crap for her own ego. Refuse to help at all without a written apology on social media. Also post her messages and sit back. Let dad take the fallout from everyone telling him to check his wife. Reply. Do you think the school would be able to do anything since this was so long ago? I'm starting to think I should call when the year starts, but I'm not sure if there's even any point to do so. Commenter 3. It's not about the school doing anything. It's about you knowing the truth. Would bet money that Amelia lied and stretched the truth. I absolutely cannot imagine it went down exactly as you described. Reply. True, I just don't know how the school would even verify this. Like, would they need to check security footage? If they ask the teacher or nurse outright, they can say they don't remember, or that they didn't say that, even if they did. I'd just feel bad bothering the school or think it would be a waste of time since this is a personal issue. Commenter 4. Info. How many piercings do you have? Especially because you say you're alternative. The modifications might not be extreme but numerous. Reply. I have snake bites, a vertical eyebrow and a horizontal on different sides, 2 nostril piercings on the same side. My septum, smiley, tongue, angel bites, dahlias, anti-eyebrow on both sides, and my bridge pierced, so quite a few. However, it is a public school, not private or Catholic, and I'm not a student, so I don't see how I could be banned for this. Commenter 5. Info. You didn't elaborate on your issues with your mom, but is it possible for you to say, hey, I'm currently not on good terms with Jeff and Amelia, so they aren't letting me see or speak to my brother? Would it be possible for me to come see him during your custody time? Reply. The no contact with my mom is from my end, so I could reach out, but she is on thin ice with Jeff and Amelia in terms of legal custody, so I'm not sure how willing she would be to go against him and let me physically see him. I am still able to communicate with my brother online and could likely text him when he was with my mom, but he is on the spectrum, and I'm not entirely sure he'd understand why I'm unable to see him right now. Update. Post. Sorry about the late update, I got busy with school. Since my first semester is all AP classes, I did what many of you said and emailed the school to ask if there was any policy stating I couldn't do pickups beyond campus due to piercings, and like most of you said, they said no. I explained to them why I was asking, and they said they would ask the teacher about the incident, but told me there was nothing they could do if Amelia took me off of the pickup list. So I thanked them, and gave them my number, and requested they call me once they're done investigating the incident with the teacher. The next day the school called me to let me know the teacher confirmed there was a staring issue and a few questions from my brothers. Classmates forgot to mention. I stood in the doorway and waited for him to collect his things after checking him out of the nurse's office. But that was all, and that she did not say anything of the sort to Amelia. I decided to call Jeff and let him know about my conversation with the school, and reiterated I would only continue to pick up my brother with an apology from his wife, or at least some kind of acknowledgement that she had lied to me. He told me he would have Amelia call me, so I unblocked her and waited. She did call to apologize, but it was very reluctant, and dropped the bombshell that she is pregnant again, and used that as an excuse. I decided to just let it go because I don't want to damage my relationship with my brother, and it just wasn't worth it. Until today, when I picked my brother up and he asked why I have so much metal in my face. He's never said anything before about the piercings, unless I've gotten a new one, so I asked what caused him to bring it up again. A lot of you were correct. One of Amelia's older sons had asked to get his ears pierced, and she attributed it to me, even though I never see my brother's step. She'd been complaining about it often around my brother, I guess trying to bait him into saying my piercings bothered or scared him too. I asked him if they did scare him, and he said no, and he doesn't really think about them, but Amelia constantly said things like, I just don't understand why she does that to herself. She's so pretty without the metal crowding her face, etc. I'm not sure how relevant this is, but her and my mom were close friends before their falling out. And Amelia has a son about 1.5 years younger than me, not the one asking to get his ears pierced, and often joked about setting us up before I started leaning more alternative. So I think that's where the "she's so pretty" comments come from. I was frustrated but didn't want to upset my brother. So I just decided to change the subject, and instead of dropping my brother off and immediately leaving, I told Amelia I wanted to come inside and speak to her. She told me it wasn't a good time, and I insisted it was. So she came outside and we talked on the porch. I told her again that if my piercings were an issue, she could find someone else to pick my brother up, but I would appreciate if she stopped constantly complaining about them to the rest of her family. She told me it was none of my concern what she said in the privacy of her own home, and I said it was my concern when she was actively trying to bait my half-brother into speaking negatively about me. She again told me she could say whatever she wanted in her own house, and I was just too tired to argue. So I told her if my brother came to me again to tell me she'd been complaining about me, I would stop picking him up and just see him during my mom's visitations with him. She was very huffy but agreed, and went back inside, slamming the door in my face. This should be the last update. I'm just going to tolerate Amelia in order to maintain contact with my brother because I don't care about her antics, and I have enough other things going on. I'll continue only communicating with Amelia and Jeff when necessary, and hopefully nothing else will come out of this. Thanks for the support, y'all. Stories number 4. AITA for purposefully missing. Meeting my sisters. Biological family, I'm 22M, and my sister is 28F. So for context, my sister was adopted, parents thought. They couldn't conceive, and then I was born, but my parents loved us both and whatever. Anyway, a few months ago my sister started meeting with her biological mom after tracking her down. I was there to meet with them for the first meeting and everything. My parents have been supportive and I've been supportive as well. But that first meeting, her biological mom brought her 2 daughters. They look a lot like my sister, and the older kid is 21, around my age. She hugged my sister and they cried and everything. They look alike, and after talking, they were able to point out like similar behavioral characteristics, etc. I'm nothing like my sister. We have different interests, etc., but we've been close. But when I was a kid I used to annoy her a lot, and TBH I've done some messed up stuff to her. When I was 12, I pulled her earring and tore her earlobe. Didn't want to hurt her like that, but did want to mess with her. I used to force myself into any outings with her friends. I used to annoy her. I made fun of her a few times when she got bad grades in math, and she made fun of my English grades as well. I suck at writing. There's more messed up stuff we did to each other. Arguably I was worse though, lol, but I could go on and on. When I was around 14 or 15 we got chill and been chill since. Also, I like video games, the gym and the gun range. That's all I do. She likes outdoor and super social activities. Her biological sisters seem to be more in tune with her interests. I kind of feel like I've been a shit brother and felt like an imposter. I've sat out 3 other meetings they had with them, claiming I couldn't come home. I was busy with work, etc. IDK how to talk about this with her, 'cause I have super ironic relationship with her. She keeps it real with me, but I've never spoken non-sarcastic to her. Even when she said she would contact her biological family, I said, "Good, hope they take you off our hands, haha." And we both laughed it off. Recently, she's begun to suspect something. I think she asked me if I don't like them or something, or why I keep avoiding my family as a whole. I haven't been home in a few months either. I lied to her and said, I'm actually busy. My mom keeps asking me about it too and tells me it's important to support her. I do support her, but it's like, I feel like she's better off with them. They never annoyed her growing up and stuff. I know it's a bit illogical, but I thought I was doing the right thing since I don't want her meeting them to be about me. 2 don't really get along with my dad, and my mom never intervenes when I argue with him. My sister has always stood up for me against him. She's the only one who gets me, so I don't want to lie to her. But I don't want to make this moment about me either. I thought I was doing the right thing. Anyway, sorry if this is messily written. I don't like thinking or talking about like deep shit. Much comments. Commenter 1 Nay, honestly, I would send this post to your sister. It sounds like you are struggling to tell her you regret how you treated her growing up. And you appreciate her as a sister. You wrote it really well here. Send this or something similar to her to help open the conversation up. Commenter 2. I second this. This is actually a really sweet post. OP, you obviously love your sister and she obviously loves you and wants to involve you in this new part of her life. Her biological sisters didn't annoy her growing up, but they also didn't grow up with her. You 2 have thousands of memories together. Inside jokes. Special moments. Don't sell yourself short. It sounds like you were the typical annoying younger sibling, And you couldn't have been that annoying because she stayed close to you and you've grown out of the little sibling tricks. Commenter 3. This my brother annoyed the shit out of me regularly when we were growing up together. But he died 2 years ago and part of me did. 2. No one else will ever know the things we knew about each other. Things that came from a shared lifetime. Jokes, milestones, trauma. You have that with your sister. 2. It sounds like she wanted you to meet her blood relatives because you matter to her. She doesn't want to cut you out of her life or replace you. Don't cut yourself out of her life. BC, you feel guilty and got this idea in your head that she's better off without you. Just tell her you're sorry you were a shit so much and that you love her. It's okay if you want some distance as she adapts to knowing her bio family, but you are her family. 2. Update. I followed everyone's advice and thought about sending her a text, but my dad unfortunately fractured his leg, and I had to stop by home to see him on Thursday. We don't have a speaking relationship, but my mom's makes me still be a good son, and he lashes out at my mom if I don't play the part. My sister was there, since my dad and I don't talk to each other face to face and only talk through her or my mom anyway. Afterwards, my dad sat on the couch to watch TV, and I had some dinner with my sister. She just said it's been a long time since we've seen each other and asked if everything was okay and why. I've been avoiding her IDK why it happened or what happened, but for some reason I started crying then and kinda just told her everything. It all just spilled out. Not just that, but other issues I've been having in life in general as well. Little bit embarrassing TBH. I just haven't seen her since January. She started crying too and assured me I'll always be family, and my mom cried too. My dad got pissed off and made a comment about how men don't cry and that my mom and sister are spoiling me by letting me cry. Same shit he normally did growing up. This time my mom joined my sister and they both yelled at him, told him to fuck off. Essentially he got angry and picked up his crutches and hopped to the neighbor's house. His friend lol anyway. IDKY, but that helped a lot. I took off from work and my sister did too, and we spent all of Friday chilling. She wanted me to come to her bio mom's husband's birthday party on Saturday. If I was cool with it, I went there and met them again. Cool coincidence. Her bio mom's husband's sister was my professor back in college. I TA'd for her and she was my mentor. So I spent most of the time there catching up with her and taking grad school and career advice from her. And she said she knew someone at my dream company I wanna work for and told me to contact her again when I graduate, since I already know her and we're confusingly family now. Lol, my sister was glad I had a good time, and my mom did too. Dad sat it out since he was injured. When I had to leave to come back, my sister cried again and made a huge scene. Haha, made me promise to never ignore my family like that again. I'm home now, and I think I'll continue stopping by home once every 2 weeks or so, like I did before everything. Anyway, yeah, not a huge update or anything, but it's cool. I told my sister I would show up to her meetings with them sometimes, but not every time 'cause it's still awkward for me, and she said she's okay with that, just wanted them and me to know about each other a bit. So yeah, it's kinda all chill now. All it took was be crying like a child and being sappy Mao. I'm never living that down. Commenter 1. Glad to hear it's a happy update. All the best for your future career and with your family. As for your dad, he can kick rocks. Commenter 2 with an injured leg. Commenter 3. This is great, my guy. You opened up to your sister and had a heartfelt conversation. Great job. Stories number 5. Learning how to be just me instead of Katie's twin Casey. I 18F have an identical twin sister. Katie, people love to romanticize twins. Matching outfits, secret languages, being each other's built-in best friend. It sounds sweet from the outside, but living it wasn't some fairy tale. At least not for me. Our parents, Susan and Greg, were obsessed with us being identical in every way. They gave us names that matched, Katie and Casey, and even spelled mine differently on purpose, so they'd go together. They thought it was adorable, like we were dolls in a set. To them, individuality was almost a betrayal of the twin bond. Katie leaned into it. She wanted us to be inseparable. I resented it. I wanted to breathe growing up. Everything was arranged so we would never separate. Same bedroom, same bed. We were always in the same class at school because my parents demanded it. Teachers tried once to put us in different sections, and my mom stormed down to the office until they switched me back. On every field trip, we had to be paired together at birthday parties. If one of us was invited, the other was automatically included whether the host wanted that or not. Our extracurriculars? Whatever Katie picked, I was dragged along even if I hated it. It was suffocating. I started trying to set boundaries when I was little, but Katie wouldn't respect them if I said I didn't want to sit with her at lunch. She'd pout until I gave in. If I told her I wanted to hang out with a friend alone, she'd insert herself anyway. And when I pushed back harder, my parents always took her side when I was 11. I finally made a close friend on my own, Alyssa. I wanted her to be just mine, not another person Katie could claim. I thought maybe, finally, I could have something separate. My parents found out and accused me of bullying my sister for not including her. They actually sat me down and said, "Twins don't keep secrets. If you like someone, Katie has to be part of it too." That was the moment I realized I'd never have a real relationship with my parents. They didn't see me as a person. Just one half of a matching set. Katie reinforced it every chance she got. If someone at school liked me but didn't like her, she saw it as betrayal. If a teacher praised me, she demanded equal praise. If a boy slipped me a note, she tore it up before I could read it. Her whole world revolved around us being the same, and she couldn't handle the idea that we weren't. When I was 14, I got hospitalized for a couple of days with a health issue. Katie wasn't allowed to stay overnight, and my parents freaked out so badly they were almost banned from visiting. But for me, those were the best 2 nights of sleep I'd ever had. For the first time, I was completely alone, and it felt like fresh air filling my lungs. Meanwhile, Katie completely fell apart. She didn't sleep. She cried constantly. She spiraled. And instead of my parents acknowledging that maybe the dependency wasn't healthy, they yelled at the hospital staff for separating us. Fast forward to senior year. The plan, their plan, was for us to go to the same college, live together, and probably even choose the same major. My mom bragged to family about how she was going to make sure housing assigned us as roommates. I knew if I let that happen, I'd never escape, so I didn't. In June, I quietly packed my stuff, left, and moved in with Alyssa's family. I told Katie nothing. I blocked her, blocked my parents, blocked everyone. Alyssa helped me apply to a community college out of state. And when I got accepted, we moved. I got a part-time job at a bookstore to help pay rent. For the first time in my life, I was just Casey, not Katie and Casey. It was terrifying but also liberating. Eventually, though I unblocked Katie, part of me still loved her, missed her, felt guilty for leaving. That was a mistake. The messages I got from her were gut-wrenching. "Please come home. You ruined me. I can't do this without you. Why did you leave me behind? I dropped out. I can't handle college without you." She's back living with our parents, and it sounds like she barely leaves her room. She's begging me to let her move in with me. Then came the phone calls from my parents. They used Katie's phone to call and scream at me. My mom said I was abusive. My dad said I was trying to kill my sister by abandoning her. Katie sobbed in the background, begging me to answer, begging me to fix it, and I can see her unraveling. She's spiraling without me. But here's the thing. If I go back, if I give in, I'll lose myself forever. I've finally tasted freedom. I'm finally learning who I am. I can't go back to being just Katie's twin. It kills me because I love her. She's my sister, my twin. But I can't live my whole life being an accessory in hers. I want to be me. Just me. And every day I'm torn between 2 unbearable choices. Watch my sister fall apart, or give up my own life to save hers. Update. Katie showed up at my apartment. And now things are even more complicated. I knew unblocking my sister might open a floodgate, but I wasn't prepared for this, so a few days after I posted, Katie actually showed up at my apartment. I don't even know how she found the address. I've only been here a couple months, and I never told her directly. My guess is that my mom dug through something, because Susan has this way of sniffing out information when she wants to control a situation. I was at work at the bookstore when it happened. Alyssa texted me, "Your sister is here. She's been crying on the porch for 20 minutes. What do you want me to do?" My stomach dropped. I knew if I texted back, "Let her in," I'd undo everything I'd been working toward. If I texted, "Send her away," I'd feel like the cruelest person alive by the time I got home. Katie was sitting on the front steps with her suitcase. Not a small one either. The big kind you'd take to the airport for a 2-week trip. Her makeup was smudged from crying. Her hair was a mess, and she looked so much smaller than I remembered. Not physically. She's my identical twin, so she looks like me. But emotionally, she looked fragile. She ran to me like a little kid and clung to me so hard I couldn't breathe. She kept saying, "Please don't send me away. Please don't do this to me. You don't know what it's been like without you." Didn't have the heart to just push her off and slam the door. Alyssa brought her inside and gave us space. Katie sobbed in my lap for an hour, telling me how she dropped out of college after just a few weeks because it wasn't the same without you. She said she can't sleep, can't eat, feels like her chest is caving in. She admitted she's been begging Mom and Dad to let her call me every day, but they kept telling her, "She doesn't want you. She doesn't care about you anymore." Which is rich, considering they're the ones who pushed us into this mess in the first place. Then Katie hit me with the big one. "Take me with you. Please. Just let me stay here. I'll sleep on the floor. I'll get a job. I'll do whatever. Just don't leave me again." And I froze, because here's the ugly truth. Part of me wants to help her. I know she's not faking this spiral. I know she feels like her world collapsed when I left. But another part of me, the louder part, is screaming, if you let her move in, you'll never escape again. You'll just rebuild the same cage, but in a different state. I told her gently that she couldn't just move in with me. Not like this, not without planning. That she needs therapy. That she needs to start building her own life. Katie didn't take it well. She accused me of abandoning her again. She said, "You're my other half. You don't get to just leave me." And then she said something that really messed with my head. "If you don't want me, I don't want to be here anymore." That scared the hell out of me. I don't know if it was a genuine cry for help or just something dramatic she said to guilt me, but either way it's terrifying. Alyssa came back in at that point and tried to back me up. She told Katie, "You can't put that kind of pressure on your sister. She's her own person. You need help that Casey can't give you." Katie just glared at her like she'd ruined the moment. I ended up calling my dad, Greg, to come get her. He showed up furious, saying I was heartless for kicking out my own twin. Katie clung to me the whole time, begging me not to send her back. I had to literally peel her off of me and hand her over. She cried the entire drive away that night. I couldn't sleep every time I closed my eyes. I heard her voice saying, "If you don't want me, I don't want to be here anymore, and I don't know what to do now." Part of me feels like the worst sister alive, abandoning someone who's clearly struggling. But another part of me knows if I cave, I'll lose myself completely. I'll never get to just be me. I've been looking up resources for siblings of codependent twins and support groups, but it feels so niche that there's not much out there. Some of you suggested therapy, and I'm seriously considering it, because I can't carry this guilt and pressure alone. But yeah, that's where I'm at. My sister showed up at my door with her suitcase, like a scene out of a drama, and now I'm stuck in this impossible place between saving her and saving myself. Final update. Choosing myself without abandoning my sister. It's been 6 months since Katie showed up at my apartment, suitcase in hand, crying and begging me to take her. I've had a lot of time to think about what happened, and I wanted to post an update so anyone following along can see how it played out after that day. I made a very hard decision. I couldn't let Katie move in, but I also couldn't abandon her completely. I reached out to a counselor I found through a twin support group, someone who specializes in enmeshment and codependency. I told them everything. The childhood, my parents' obsession with keeping us the same, the hospital incident, the college mess, everything. The counselor helped me realize something important. I can love my sister and still set boundaries. I can be present in her life without being swallowed by it. And, more importantly, it's not my responsibility to fix her completely. She has to do the work herself. I had a long, honest conversation with Katie after that first crisis. I told her I loved her and that I was proud of her in so many ways, but I could no longer live in a relationship where my identity was erased. She sobbed, she yelled, she called me heartless. But I stayed calm and repeated the same message gently. Over and over, I will support you, but I cannot be your entire world. Slowly, Katie began therapy. At first, she resisted. But after a few sessions, she started opening up about how lost she felt and how much she relied on me to feel safe. She's learning to develop her own life. It's not perfect. She still has rough days, and sometimes she calls or texts non-stop, but she's slowly building an identity separate from me. I also set up boundaries with our parents. I told Susan and Greg that I would not allow them to call me to guilt me about Katie. I would support my sister, but I would not be manipulated or harassed for the first time. They actually backed off. It wasn't instant, and there were some fights, but eventually they stopped trying to control me and, begrudgingly, started letting Katie take steps on her own 2 ways for me. I've finally started enjoying my life. I'm excelling at my classes, working at my bookstore, and I even joined a local running club. These are things I never could have done if I were still living as Katie's twin. I feel more like myself than I ever have. I've even made some friends who know me as Casey, not as part of a pair. It hasn't been easy every time Katie struggles. My instinct is still to rush in and fix it. But I remind myself that I've given her the tools to start building her own world. I can love her without being swallowed by her problems. A few weeks ago, she told me something that hit me hard. I think I finally get what you needed. Casey, I don't want to control you anymore. I want to learn how to be me, too. That made everything feel worth it. So where we are now. Katie is slowly rebuilding her life. With therapy and support, I'm living independently, fully embracing my own identity. Our parents have stopped interfering. Mostly we still talk, sometimes laugh, and sometimes argue. But it's on healthier terms. I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself completely. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's still a work in progress. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm living for myself and not for anyone else's expectations, and I think, eventually, Katie will get there too. It hurts to see her struggle, but I also see her growing stronger, and that's enough for now. Stories number 6. My sister-in-law invited strangers on our cruise plans and now thinks I'm being petty for backing out. I never thought I'd be here writing about this. But here we are. For context, I'm Anna, 42F, married to Mark, 44M. We've been together for over 15 years, and while we're not exactly jet-setters, we've always loved the idea of doing a cruise together. Neither of us has been on one, and with our jobs finally allowing us some flexibility, we started talking about making it happen. My sister-in-law, Rebecca, 40F, is married to my brother, David, 43M. Rebecca is one of those people who always wants to be the planner. She thrives on organizing events, dinners, and group outings. Sometimes it's great, but more often than not, it ends up feeling like she steamrolls people into her own version of fun. Mark and I have tried to go along with it over the years to keep the peace, but honestly, it's been wearing on us. When Rebecca floated the idea of us doing a cruise together, just the 4 of us, I was thrilled. It felt like the perfect opportunity to spend quality time with my brother and sister-in-law, without the distractions of day-to-day life. Rebecca and I started casually planning, in a group text with Mark and David. She got really excited and went ahead and booked their cabin pretty quickly. I held off for a couple of weeks, mostly because work was insane, and I wanted to make sure I could get the exact time off. Rebecca assumed I'd already booked ours. Totally fair misunderstanding. But that's where things started to go sideways. One night, as we're texting about excursions and cruise dates, she casually drops into the conversation that she's invited 2 other couples to join. Not as a, hey, would you guys be cool with this? But as a, oh, by the way, they've already booked their cabins too. I froze when I read it. Mark looked over my shoulder, saw the message, and immediately groaned. Because this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Rebecca has a long track record of turning what should be small, intimate plans into the more the merrier situations. She's invited her friends to birthday dinners without asking, added people to double date nights that ended up leaving Mark and me sitting at the far end of the table with strangers, and once even brought an entirely different couple to a movie night at our house without giving us a heads up. It always ends the same way. Mark and I become the fifth wheels, sitting awkwardly while everyone else reminisces about things we weren't there for. We've been good sports about it. Every single time we smile, make polite conversation, pay for our own meals, and go home feeling drained. But this time, it wasn't just a dinner out. It was an expensive cruise. A full week of being essentially trapped at sea with 2 couples we'd never met before. I texted Rebecca back and said something like, "Wait, who are these couples? I didn't realize we were making this a big group trip." She replied breezily, "Oh, they're some of our closest friends. You'll love them. They've been wanting to do a cruise with us for years, And this was the perfect chance. I asked if she could give me more details about them, but the only thing she said was, "Don't worry, they're fun. You'll have a blast." Mark looked at me and said flatly, "I don't want to go." He didn't even hesitate. And I'll be honest, my gut reaction was the same. It's not that we're antisocial. We both like meeting new people in the right context. But we had never signed up for a group cruise with strangers. If we wanted that, we would have invited some of our own friends. The more we talked about it, the more it just didn't sit right. The whole point of this trip, at least from our perspective, was to bond with Rebecca and David. Not tag along on some trip with people we didn't know. And spending thousands of dollars, plus taking a week off work, just to feel like outsiders? No, thank you. So I called Rebecca and explained. I said, "Look, Mark and I thought this was going to be a trip for the four of us. Since you've invited other couples, we've decided not to go. We don't want to spend that kind of money and time away from work to vacation with people we don't know, but we hope you guys have fun with your friends." I thought I was being polite and clear, but Rebecca blew up. She said she didn't understand why it was such a big deal, that cruises are full of people we don't know anyway, and that adding two couples to the mix shouldn't change anything. She accused us of being antisocial and dramatic, and she even threw in that, "This is why people don't invite you guys to things." That one stung David. My brother has mostly stayed out of it, but he's clearly uncomfortable. He texted me later and said he understood where we were coming from, but that Rebecca was really hurt. He asked if there was any way we could reconsider because she was taking it personally. But honestly, I don't feel like we're in the wrong here. If I invite my friends to dinner, and Rebecca suddenly shows up with two extra couples, that's annoying, sure. But at the end of the day, it's just dinner. This was a cruise, a big, expensive trip, and she never once asked us if we were okay with it. She just assumed. Now Rebecca is giving me the cold shoulder, making snippy comments in the family group chat, and apparently telling extended family that we're being petty and controlling. From her perspective, I guess it looks like we're dictating who she can invite, but that's not it at all. She can invite whoever she wants. We're just not obligated to go along with it. Mark and I have agreed. We're not budging. We don't want to go. We'd rather plan our own trip, on our own terms, than shell out thousands of dollars to feel left out for a week straight. Still, I can't help but feel guilty, like maybe we're being overly sensitive. Or maybe I should have just sucked it up for the sake of family harmony. But at the same time, I keep going back to how often this has happened, and how every time we've been the ones to bend this time, I just can't do it. Update. My sister-in-law invited strangers on our cruise plans and now thinks I'm being petty for backing out. Well, things escalated faster than I expected. After I made my original post, I honestly thought Rebecca would cool down and eventually see our side. I figured a little time and distance would make her realize we weren't trying to control her. We were just choosing not to go on a trip that wasn't what we signed up for. But instead, the opposite happened. The next morning I woke up to a novel-length text from her. It basically boiled down to this: we embarrassed her by bailing, after she already told her friends it was a family cruise. We were being selfish and antisocial by not wanting to spend time with her people. And my personal favorite, she accused us of trying to undermine her marriage to my brother because we refused to accept her social circle as part of our family. That one left me blinking at my phone for a solid 5 minutes. Like, what? How does us not wanting to go on a cruise with strangers equate to sabotaging her marriage? Mark told me to just leave it alone, but I couldn't. I typed back something calm and short. "Rebecca, I'm sorry you feel that way. This isn't about your friends or your marriage. This is about what Mark and I are comfortable spending our money and vacation time on. We love you and David, but we don't want to spend a week with people we don't know. That's all." She didn't reply. But later that evening my phone started buzzing again. This time from my mom. Apparently, Rebecca had been calling around to family members, giving her version of the story. According to Mom, Rebecca told everyone that Mark and I were boycotting the cruise to punish her, and making her out to be some sort of villain for inviting a couple of friends. Now my aunt, my cousins, and even my dad are weighing in with their opinions, which Rebecca clearly solicited. Half of them think we should just suck it up for the sake of family unity, while the other half think Rebecca overstepped. My mom, bless her, is trying to stay neutral but did admit that she sees our point. Meanwhile, David has been caught in the middle. He called me one night sounding exhausted. He admitted that he and Rebecca fought about it, because he actually agrees with us. He said he would have been annoyed too if the roles were reversed, but he also said Rebecca feels personally rejected, and he doesn't know how to calm her down. I feel bad for him. My brother has always been the peacemaker, and I know he hates conflict, but at the same time it's not fair that Mark and I have to shoulder the blame just because Rebecca can't acknowledge that she might have been inconsiderate. And here's the kicker. Apparently Rebecca already paid deposits for her friends' cabins. She insists she only did that because she was so sure we'd already booked ours, and she wanted to make sure everyone was grouped together. When I asked why she wouldn't double-check with me before making that kind of commitment, she snapped, "Because I thought I could count on you." It feels like she twisted this whole thing into some kind of loyalty test, like us not going automatically means we don't value her. Which isn't true at all. For the past week, there's been this awkward tension in the family group chat. Every time I post something lighthearted, like a picture of our dog or a meme, Rebecca will throw in a snide comment like, "Hope your dog doesn't mind strangers, Anna." David usually throws in an emoji to soften it. But it's so transparent. Mark has been great through all of this. He keeps reminding me that it's not our job to manage Rebecca's feelings, and that we're allowed to set boundaries. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't stressed about the whole situation. Family vacations are supposed to be fun. Instead, I feel like I'm walking through a minefield. The wildest part? Mark and I ended up looking at cruises on our own, just the two of us. We found one later in the year that actually works better with our work schedules, and we're seriously considering booking it. When I mentioned this to my mom, she said, "Don't let Rebecca find out, she'll lose it, if she thinks you ditched hers to do one alone." So that's where we're at. Rebecca is still upset. David is stuck in the middle. Half the family thinks we're being stubborn, and the other half thinks Rebecca's being unreasonable. Meanwhile, Mark and I are leaning toward just doing our own thing and letting the chips fall where they may. I keep wondering, if we cave and go, we'll be miserable for a week. If we don't go, Rebecca will be angry. Either way, someone's upset. And honestly, at this point I'd rather it not be me. Final update. Backed out of my Sills cruise. After she invited strangers, here's how it ended. So, a few weeks later, the cruise came and went. Mark and I officially decided not to join. We didn't make a dramatic announcement or anything. We just told Rebecca one last time, "We love you, but we're not comfortable spending that much time and money on a trip with strangers." She sent back a one-liner. "Fine, do whatever you want." That was the last direct text I got from her before they left. When departure week rolled around, my mom kept me vaguely updated because she was worried the family tension would explode. Apparently, Rebecca went full social media blast mode. Her Facebook and Instagram were filled with group photos of her, David, and the two couples she invited. All smiles, cocktails, matching shirts. The work's every caption was something like, "Family is who shows up for you." Mark and I rolled our eyes, but honestly felt relieved for once. We weren't stuck being the awkward fifth wheels, but here's where it gets kind of karmic. According to David, who called me privately after they got back, the trip was not great. The two couples she invited, let's call them the Johnsons and the Carters, apparently did not mesh well at all. They bickered constantly about dinner reservations, shore excursions, and even who got the better balcony rooms. Rebecca spent half the cruise trying to referee fights between her friends, and David said he barely saw her actually relax one night. Things got so bad at dinner that one of the wives stormed off crying, and the group had to awkwardly finish their meal in silence. Meanwhile, David ended up drinking at the bar with a random guy from Texas he met by the pool. He told me it was the only night he actually enjoyed himself. On top of that, the ship hit some rough weather, so 2 out of the 7 days were rocky and miserable. The Johnsons apparently complained the entire time, and the Carters tried to get their drink packages refunded. Rebecca was mortified. By the time they got back, she was exhausted and cranky, I could tell, just by her half-hearted, "Hope you had fun doing nothing while we were gone" text she sent me. Meanwhile, Mark and I booked our own cruise. We went a month later, just the two of us, on a smaller ship to Bermuda. It was amazing. We spent the days exploring, eating way too much food, reading on deck, and actually enjoying each other's company. No drama, no refereeing strangers, no guilt. Just a vacation. When we got back, I posted a couple of pictures, nothing over the top, just a few sunsets and one goofy shot of us at the beach within an hour. Rebecca texted me, "Wow, so you did go on a cruise. Thanks for rubbing it in." I didn't respond right away because, frankly, I didn't want to fight later that night. David called me and apologized. He said he knew she was upset, but he also admitted that their cruise was a disaster and that he totally got why Mark and I chose not to go. He told me he was jealous of our Bermuda trip and that if he ever gets a do-over, he's leaving Rebecca's friend groups out of it. The family drama has died down a little since then. Most relatives eventually stopped taking sides when they realized Rebecca's trip wasn't the magical family bonding experience she made it out to be. My mom, in particular, has been quietly vindicated. She told me Rebecca tried to brag about the cruise but then slipped up and admitted it was a headache. As for me, I'm glad we stuck to our boundaries. If we'd caved, we would have spent thousands of dollars being miserable and resentful. Instead, we saved ourselves the drama, had our own wonderful trip, and came home with zero regrets. Rebecca still throws little digs now and then, like making comments about us being antisocial or picky. But at this point, it feels more like noise than anything else. I've stopped explaining myself. Mark and I made our choice, and we're happy with it. The biggest lesson I learned from all of this is that you can't please everyone, especially family members who refuse to respect your boundaries. Sometimes, no matter what you do, they'll find a way to be offended. And honestly, that's their problem, not yours. So yeah, Rebecca got her cruise, we got ours, and in the end, I think it's pretty clear who came out ahead. Stories number 7. My dad mocked my fiancé's career at family dinner, and I finally snapped. I 29FM engaged to Leo 30M. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for almost a year, and planning to get married next spring. Leo is a high school art teacher. He loves it. It's his passion. He's the kind of teacher who stays after school helping kids with their portfolios, goes to their shows, cheers them on when their work gets into contests. He isn't rich, but he's fulfilled, and honestly, I respect the hell out of him for it. My family doesn't see it that way. My dad, Frank 57M, is a very traditional type, blue-collar background. Worked his way up in construction, now runs his own small contracting company. He's very proud of being a self-made, real work guy. He's always had strong opinions about careers, and to him, anything that isn't hard labor or pulling 6 figures is soft. For context, I work in marketing. It's not exactly a real job by his standards either, but I've learned to let the comments roll off. Leo's profession, though? Dad never lets it go. This past Sunday, we were at our usual family dinner at my parents' house. My siblings were there. Emily, 25F, who's in nursing school, and Ryan, 32M, who works with my dad in the family business. My mom, Susan, 55F, was bustling around as always, keeping everything running. Dinner started fine. We sat down, had some wine, chatted about the wedding plans, but halfway through, Dad decided to turn the spotlight on Leo. "So, Leo," Dad says, in that tone that pretends to be joking but is actually mean, "when are you getting yourself a real job?" The table chuckled. Ryan smirked. Emily gave that awkward little laugh people do when they don't want to be rude. Leo forced a polite smile, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. I tried to brush it off and change the subject, but Dad wasn't done. He asked Leo if he ever considered doing something practical with his degree. He asked if he ever regretted not going into something that pays the bills. And then the kicker. He says, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Art teachers are just failed artists anyway, right?" The table erupted in laughter. Except me. Except Leo. I felt my stomach flip. I looked at Leo. His face went red. He stared down at his plate. He wasn't going to defend himself. That's just not who he is. He's humble, non-confrontational, but I couldn't sit there and watch my dad humiliate him. So I said, "Dad, that's not funny, you're being disrespectful." The room went silent for a second. Then Dad scoffed, "Oh, come on, can't you take a joke? Everyone's laughing, lighten up." But it wasn't a joke to Leo. It wasn't a joke to me. I said, "We're done here." I grabbed my coat, looked at Leo, and he followed. We left. My phone started buzzing before we even got home. First Emily texting, "You overreacted, Dad was just joking." Then Ryan chiming in, "You embarrassed the whole family walking out like that." Then finally my mom calling, telling me I should have just ignored it because that's just how your dad is, and now I'm the villain, Dad won't apologize. He told me later that if Leo can't handle a little ribbing, maybe he's not cut out to be in this family. He says he was just teasing, and that Leo needs thicker skin. My siblings have all basically backed him up, saying I should have laughed it off instead of making a scene, but from my perspective, this wasn't harmless teasing. This was years of little digs piling up, and finally I hit a breaking point. I couldn't sit there smiling while my dad undermined the man I'm about to marry. Leo says he appreciates me standing up for him, but I can tell he feels guilty that the whole thing turned into family drama. He even asked me if he should just avoid family dinners for a while, which breaks my heart. He didn't do anything wrong. Now I'm stuck wondering, if I made things worse by walking out, should I have just kept my mouth shut and protected Leo in private afterward? Or was I right to draw a line in the sand in the moment? All I know is, I'm not willing to sit through another dinner where the man I love gets treated like a punchline update. My dad mocked my fiancé's career at family dinner, and I finally snapped, "Hi everyone. I wasn't expecting my first post to get the kind of attention it did. I've read through so many of your comments, and honestly, it helped me feel less crazy. For once I didn't feel like I was the only person in the room seeing my dad's jokes for what they were. So thank you. A lot has happened since I posted. And it's been messy the days after we left dinner. Right after Leo and I left that Sunday, things were tense in my family group chat. Emily kept pushing the "you overreacted" narrative. Ryan sent some dumb meme about artists being broke, and my mom did her usual "let's just keep the peace" routine. My dad didn't say much beyond "grow up, jokes are jokes." I didn't respond at all for a couple of days. I was angry, but also drained. Leo, bless him, kept trying to downplay it. He said he didn't want me to be caught in the middle and even offered to just skip family dinners from now on. I told him that wasn't fair. I wasn't going to let my dad bully him into avoiding my family. The phone call with my mom a few days later. My mom called me while I was at work. She opened with, "Sweetheart, I know your dad can be a little much, but you know he doesn't mean anything by it. He's old school. That's just his sense of humor." I told her I wasn't interested in excuses. I said, "Mom, I'm not asking him to love Leo's job, but I am asking him to stop insulting it at every opportunity. That's not a joke. That's disrespect." She sighed, said she understood, but also hinted that I should be the one to smooth things over. I asked her point blank, "Do you think Leo deserves to be mocked every family dinner?" She went quiet for a long second and then admitted, "No, but your dad won't change. Honey, he's set in his ways." That stung because what she was really saying was, "It's easier if you change." The next family dinner. Fast forward to the following Sunday. We debated whether to go, but I decided we should, with one rule. If my dad started in again, I'd speak up once, and if it didn't stop, we'd leave. No drama, no yelling, just a boundary. We showed up, and immediately the energy was weird. Ryan greeted Leo with a joking, "Hey, Picasso." Emily made some awkward small talk. My dad didn't say much at first. For most of dinner, things were surprisingly civil. Until dessert, Dad leaned back in his chair, smirked and said, "So, Leo, how's it feel knowing half your students will end up in jobs that actually pay the bills?" Silence. Everyone looked at me like they were waiting for me to blow up. I took a deep breath and said calmly, "Dad, I'm not going to sit here while you insult my fiancé. We've asked you before to stop. This is the last time we'll say it. If you keep it up, we won't be coming back." You could have heard a pin drop. My dad tried to laugh it off, but nobody laughed with him this time. Even Emily just looked down at her plate. My mom quickly started clearing dishes to break the tension. Leo put his hand on mine under the table, and I swear I saw relief in his eyes. The fallout after we left that night. My phone blew up again. Ryan texted, "You're seriously going to cut us off over some jokes? Grow up," Emily called, crying, saying she hated being in the middle. But something interesting happened too. My mom texted me later, "I think you did the right thing. Your dad won't admit it, but he heard you." That was the first crack in the armor. The conversation with my dad 2 days later My dad called me, not my mom, on his behalf. Not a group chat. Just him. He didn't exactly apologize. At least not in the way most people would, but he said, "I didn't realize you were taking it so seriously. I thought I was just joking around. I won't bring up Leo's job anymore." It wasn't the heartfelt, movie script apology I'd dreamed of, but honestly, it's probably as good as it gets from my dad. I told him, "Dad, I don't care if you love Leo's job or not, but you need to respect him. Because if you can't respect him, then you don't respect me either." There was a long pause, and then he just said, "All right, it was small, but it was something, where things stand now since then. We've been to 2 more dinners. My dad has kept his word. No digs, no jokes." He still doesn't talk much to Leo beyond surface-level stuff, but at least it's not openly hostile anymore. Ryan still makes the occasional smart-ass comment, but I shut it down quickly, and Mom has started stepping in too, which is new. Leo told me the other night, "I feel like you really have my back." And that meant the world to me, because at the end of the day, that's what this whole mess was about. Showing him that I won't let anyone, even my own family, belittle him. I don't know if my dad will ever truly get it, but I know now that I'm not crazy for demanding basic respect. And if keeping that boundary means fewer family dinners, so be it. TLDR. Went back to family dinner. Dad made another dig. I calmly set a boundary that we'd stop attending if it continued. He actually called me later, promised to stop, and so far has followed through. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Final update. My dad mocked my fiancé's career, and it nearly broke my family. Hi again. I honestly didn't expect to ever come back and write another update, but a lot has happened since the last one, and I figured I owed people who followed this story a conclusion. It's been a little over a year since my original post. In that time, Leo and I got married, moved into a new place together, and we're talking about starting a family in the near future. Life on our side has been good, but family dynamics, as you can probably guess, have been complicated. The wedding planning drama. Once Leo and I set a date, we both knew family involvement would be a huge question mark. My dad has always had strong opinions, and my siblings, well, let's just say they're not known for subtlety at first. I was nervous about inviting everyone. I even floated the idea of eloping or having something really small. But Leo insisted, "This is our day. I want to marry you surrounded by people who matter, even if some of them don't always act like it." So we invited everyone, but I made it crystal clear to my parents. This is about us. I will not tolerate any snide remarks or undermining. If anyone disrespects Leo on our wedding day, they'll be asked to leave. To my surprise, my mom actually backed me up. She told my dad, "Don't you dare embarrass her at her own wedding." How the wedding went? You guys, my dad behaved like really behaved. Not a single crack about teaching, art, or money. He gave a short toast that was actually nice. He said he was proud of me, that Leo clearly made me happy, and that was what mattered. I cried. So did my mom. Even my brother Ryan looked a little stunned. After the toast, my dad came over to Leo, shook his hand, and said, "Take care of her." That was it, short, almost gruff. But for my dad, that was basically a Shakespearean sonnet. Leo later told me, "I think that's as close to an apology as we're ever going to get. And honestly, I'll take it." Shifts in the family dynamics. Since the wedding, things have been better, not perfect, but better. My dad doesn't bring up Leo's career anymore, ever. In fact, he's actually bragged to a couple of extended relatives that his son-in-law is a teacher shaping young minds. I nearly choked the first time I overheard it. Ryan still makes the occasional smart-ass remark, but it's lost its bite. I think even he realized, after the wedding, that the old routine doesn't fly anymore. Emily and I have had some heart-to-hearts, and she admitted that a lot of her keep-the-peace attitude came from not wanting to stand up to Dad herself. We're working on rebuilding that trust. Mom, she's complicated. She still defaults to, "Let's just keep things calm." But I've noticed she's more willing to step in if my dad gets close to crossing a line. It's progress. The best moment. This happened just a few weeks ago, and honestly, it's why I decided to write this final update. Leo had an art show at the high school where some of his students displayed their work. Parents were invited, and so were family members. I didn't expect my parents to come. I didn't even tell them about it because I assumed it wasn't their scene. But they showed up. My dad, my mom, even Emily. They walked through the gallery, looking at the students' work, And my dad actually said to one of Leo's students, "Your teacher must be proud of you. This is impressive." I nearly fell over afterward. As we were packing up, my dad said to Leo, "I get it now. It's not about the money. It's about this." He gestured to the students, their families, the whole environment. I don't think I've ever loved Leo more than I did in that moment, watching him smile and shake my dad's hand where we are now. So here's the truth. My dad will never be the warm, gushing father-in-law. That's not who he is. But he respects Leo now, and he respects me for standing up for Leo. Looking back, I realize walking out of that dinner was the turning point. If I had just let it slide, I think things would have kept getting worse. Setting that boundary was hard, and it cost me months of awkwardness and conflict. But it forced my dad to see that his words had consequences. Now, when I think about starting a family with Leo, I feel hopeful. I know our kids will grow up seeing that their mom defended their dad, that respect is non-negotiable, and that sometimes you have to hold your ground, even with people you love. TLDR. A year later, Leo and I are married. My dad behaved at the wedding, and while he'll never admit he was wrong outright, his actions show he's come around to respecting Leo. The family isn't perfect, but things are in a much healthier place. Walking out that night was the best decision I could have made. Stories. Number 8. Landlord ignored my maintenance requests, so I stopped babysitting his packages. I rent the bottom unit in a 2-story brownstone in Pennsylvania. My landlord, Greg, lives in the upstairs unit. It's an old place, built in the 1920s, with a lot of character, which is a nice way of saying things break constantly. When I moved in a year and a half ago, I thought it was a pretty good deal. The rent was decent, the neighborhood was safe, and I figured living below the landlord meant maintenance would get taken care of quickly. You'd think, right? Wrong. The leak. About 6 months ago, I noticed my kitchen sink had started to leak. Not just a drip, drip, drip kind of thing, but a steady trickle that filled a coffee mug in a few hours. I put a bucket underneath as a temporary solution, and texted Greg right away. He texted back the same day. "Got it. Thanks for letting me know. I'll take a look this weekend." That weekend came and went. No Greg. So I reminded him in person when I saw him carrying groceries up the stairs. He waved me off with, Yeah, I'll get to it soon. It's not urgent. I don't know about you, but having to dump a sloshing bucket of water down the drain every day feels pretty urgent. Over the next 2 months, I reminded him 5 more times, by text, by email, and face-to-face, same answer every time. Not urgent. Meanwhile, the leak got worse. By the 3-month mark, the bucket was filling twice a day, and the bottom of my cabinet started warping from the moisture. The packages. Here's the kicker. While Greg was ignoring my leak, I was doing him a favor almost every week. Delivery drivers would buzz my unit constantly because Greg was never home to sign for his packages. Sometimes it was something small, like clothes or books. Other times it was big boxes, expensive-looking equipment, even one that had a fragile medical device sticker. At first, I didn't mind. I'd just sign, drag the package into the hallway and text Greg, "Hey, UPS dropped off another one." He'd reply with a thumbs-up emoji or, "Thanks." That's it. No thank you note, no small gesture. Nothing, just assumed I'd always do it. After the 4th month of leak plus package duty, I was beyond irritated. One night, I was balancing this stupid overflowing bucket of sink water while also trying not to trip over one of Greg's giant boxes in the hallway, and it hit me. Why am I doing him favors when he won't even fix my damn sink? The decision, so I stopped cold turkey. The next time FedEx came, I ignored the buzzer. Same with UPS the day after. I watched from my window as the delivery driver scribbled a missed delivery slip and stuck it to the door. It was honestly satisfying. 2 days later, another driver came with a stack of boxes. I heard him mutter, "Man, this guy is never home," before hauling them back to the truck within a week. Greg had 3 missed delivery slips taped to the front door. I knew because I passed them every time I left for work. The blow-up. The following Saturday, Greg cornered me in the lobby. "Hey, what's going on? Why aren't you taking in my packages anymore?" he demanded. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Oh, I figured since my sink leak isn't urgent, your deliveries aren't either." He blinked at me, stunned. Then his face turned bright red. "That's not the same thing," he barked, "isn't it?" I asked as calmly as I could. "I've been dumping water out of a bucket every single day for half a year. You want me to babysit your Amazon habit on top of that? Nope, not urgent. He stormed off without another word. The aftermath. 48 hours later, there was a knock on my door. A plumber. He replaced the pipes under my sink in under an hour. The leak was gone that evening. Greg texted me, "Your sink is fixed, satisfied now." I just sent back a thumbs up emoji, the fallout, for the next couple of weeks. Greg was frosty whenever I saw him. He'd mutter things like, "Some people don't know how to be neighborly." But the passive-aggressive comments didn't last. Because now, the delivery drivers no longer even bother buzzing me. They go straight to his door. Or they leave the packages at the depot. The best part? Twice now, I've overheard Greg on the phone with customer service arguing about why his shipments got returned. I just smile and walk past final thoughts. I don't actually feel bad. If Greg had fixed the leak the first or second time I asked, I would have gladly continued helping with his packages, but respect goes both ways. You can't keep brushing off someone else's very real problem while expecting them to keep doing you favors for free. And you know what? My kitchen cabinet is finally dry, my bucket is retired, and I haven't tripped over a single Amazon box in months. Petty? Maybe effective? Absolutely. Update. Landlord ignored my maintenance requests, so I stopped babysitting his packages. Hey Reddit. I didn't expect my original post to get as much attention as it did. A lot of you asked me to keep you updated. And oh boy, there's been movement. So after I pulled the not urgent line on Greg and stopped signing for his deliveries, my sink got fixed within 48 hours. That part was great. What wasn't great is that Greg didn't just let it go. He apparently decided the best way to handle the situation was to double down and get petty right back round. 1. The cold shoulder. For about a week after the sink fix, Greg went full silent treatment. No eye contact, no small talk when we passed in the hall, which, honestly, best week of my tenancy. I thought maybe we'd just exist in a polite Cold War until my lease ended. But then came round 2. The package saga continues. Apparently, the package problem didn't go away for him. The delivery drivers had clearly decided I wasn't his free doorman anymore, and now he was dealing with missed deliveries constantly. I started hearing him stomping down the stairs, cursing when he found another "sorry we missed you" slip on the door one night. I came home to find him actually waiting for me in the lobby. "Look," he said, with this fake calm tone, "I don't know what kind of grudge you're holding, but it's really childish. Packages aren't life or death. I helped you by fixing your sink, didn't I?" I had to bite my tongue so hard I just said, "You didn't help me, Greg. You did the bare minimum of your job 6 months late." Then I walked past him round 3. His attempt at leverage, this, is where it started to feel less like petty nonsense and more like actual landlord shadiness. About a week later, I got a text from him. "Since you're no longer willing to cooperate with deliveries, I expect you to be more flexible with scheduling maintenance. If I need to come in during work hours, I'll use my key." That set off alarm bells. I immediately replied, "You'll give me 24 hours notice, as required by law, period." He left me on red. I don't know if he thought he could scare me into compliance, but I work in IT. First thing I did was install a $40 camera in my living room facing the front door. If he ever tried some surprise entry nonsense, I'd have proof. The fun part. About 2 weeks after that, karma did its thing. I was coming home late one evening and saw a UPS driver struggling with a giant, heavy-looking package addressed to Greg. The driver rang his buzzer, waited, no answer. Then the guy turned to me and asked, "Hey, do you know if anyone's home upstairs?" I smiled and said, "Sorry, can't help you." The driver sighed, slapped a missed delivery slip on the door, and hauled the giant box back to the truck. I swear, Greg's curtains twitched upstairs. He was home the whole time but didn't make it down fast enough. Conversations with other tenants. Here's the kicker. I've since talked with 2 other tenants who used to live here before me. Small town, mutual acquaintances. Guess what? They had the same experience he ignored. Maintenance unless they made his life difficult. One woman said she only got her shower fixed after she started withholding rent in escrow. Another guy said Greg ignored his heating issue until he stopped mowing the shared front lawn, so apparently, this is just his pattern. Where we stand now. I've officially decided I'm not renewing my lease when it's up in 5 months. I can afford something nicer now. And frankly, I'm tired of being Greg's unpaid Amazon concierge for now, though. We're in this strange détente. He still tries to guilt-trip me every so often. Neighbors are supposed to help each other out, you know? But I just smile and say, then you should have helped me out when I needed it. And the best part? I haven't had to dump a bucket of sink water in over a month. Life is good. Final update. Landlord ignored my maintenance requests, so I stopped babysitting his packages. Hey Reddit, last time I updated, Greg, my landlord, had just fixed my sink but was still sulking because I refused to play delivery concierge anymore. Things stayed tense but manageable for a while, until the final act of this ridiculous saga. The package meltdown. About a month after my last update, I came home to find 3 giant boxes stacked in the lobby. Each was labeled with Greg's name in huge print. I walked past them, minding my business because I had no intention of dragging 60-pound boxes upstairs for him. Not even 10 minutes later, he was pounding on my door. He looked furious, red in the face, and goes, "Why didn't you bring my deliveries up when you saw them? You were right there." I just blinked at him and said, "Because they're not mine." He started ranting about basic decency, neighbors helping neighbors, and then he slipped and said the quiet part out loud. "You live here because I'm generous. The least you could do is return the favor." Generous? I pay full market rent. No discount, no favors. That comment made my blood boil. I told him flat out, "Greg, you're my landlord, not my family, not my friend, and definitely not my boss. Stop expecting me to do your errands." Then I shut the door in his face, the petty retaliation. The next week, I suddenly got a notice taped to my door saying that the laundry room would be closed for repairs indefinitely. Funny timing. Since the machines had worked fine for months, I suspected Greg just didn't want me using them because he was mad. I didn't even argue. I started taking my laundry to the nice little wash and fold down the street. Costs me $20 a week but saves me 3 hours of my life. Honestly, it was an upgrade. The last straw. The real breaking point came when I caught him on camera. Remember the little $40 camera I set up facing my front door? Well, one afternoon while I was at work, I got a motion alert. Greg had let himself into my unit to check the windows. He was inside for less than 5 minutes. Didn't touch anything, but the point was clear. He was trying to intimidate me. That was it. I contacted the local tenants' rights office, filed a formal complaint with the housing authority, and sent Greg a written notice that all communication needed to be in writing going forward. The big move. I just moved out last week. I found a fantastic new place. Slightly higher rent, but a modern building, professional management company, and zero Greg. When I was packing, I realized just how much mental space he had been occupying. It was exhausting, always waiting for the next petty stunt. The day I left Greg a little note with my keys. Nothing mean, just one sentence. Next time you want someone to sign for your packages, maybe try treating them like a tenant instead of a doormat. The best part? 2 days ago, a friend who still lives in the neighborhood texted me a picture. Apparently UPS and FedEx have flagged Greg's address because he missed too many deliveries. Now, instead of leaving packages at the door, drivers automatically reroute his stuff to the depot unless he signs in person. Karma really doesn't miss. So that's the end of the package war saga. I've got a leak-free sink in my new place, a landlord I've never even met in person, and not a single box of Greg's mail in sight. Sometimes, the pettiest hill really is the one worth dying on. Stories number 9. AITA for not getting involved in the attempts to get my 8-year-old niece to love her half-sister and see her as just a sister? My sister gave birth to her second daughter, Callie, 7 months ago. She already has a daughter, Amy, 8, with her late ex-husband. My sister and Amy's dad were divorced. 2 years ago he passed away. My sister was already dating her current husband. Amy was very much a daddy's girl and has not bonded super well with my sister's current husband. She also hasn't bonded much with Callie. She's not mean to Callie or anyone, but it bothers almost everyone that she calls Callie her half-sister, and will correct to half-sister when people ask her if Callie is her sister. My sister has tried to talk Amy out of thinking like that, has asked her why she uses it. Amy told her they have different dads and that makes her not as much of a sister. My sister told her it doesn't matter if they share 1 or 2 parents, but Amy said it does to her because Callie's dad isn't her dad, and her dad isn't Callie's dad, and she doesn't want people to think either of those things is true. My sister asked Amy if she knows anyone who makes the distinction the whole time. and cares less for siblings for only sharing a mom or dad, and she said yeah. And she named 2 of her friends. I'm not entirely clear if the friends care less for a half-sibling, or if they're cared for less because they themselves are the younger half-siblings. But my sister told me it has come up in her friend group. My sister put Amy into therapy, and our parents are involved. They never liked Amy's dad, and so it's distressing for them that Amy doesn't like my sister's husband because they feel everyone would be better off if she accepted him as her new and better dad. So there's attempts going on to make her love and accept him too. Amy says she doesn't hate or dislike Callie, but she doesn't love her or see her as a real sister. This was said to her therapist, who spoke to my sister a couple of weeks ago. My sister is trying to wrap her brain around it, and she's backed off at least somewhat on it, but she wants them to love each other at least, even if it's in a different way. My parents know Amy is close to me, and they told me I should be taking charge of the situation and applying pressure to Amy to love and accept Callie as a sister instead of a half-sister. My sister said I should carry on being the supportive aunt. My parents say I'm failing both Amy and Callie with my inaction. My sister's husband agrees with our parents, but doesn't push it because of my sister's stance AITA for not getting involved. Stories number 10. Suspicious. About my roommate's boyfriend wearing meta glasses at our party, I, 26F, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, Emily, 27F. About 2 months ago, we found the place on a rental app, and honestly, I felt super lucky because it was clean, affordable for the area, and Emily seemed genuinely kind and easy to live with. She's originally from Germany, so sometimes there's a little language barrier, but she's one of those sweet, soft-spoken people who makes an effort to understand. She works in research, is pretty low-key, and I was relieved not to end up with a nightmare roommate situation. Fast forward to last weekend. Emily decided to host a small housewarming get-together. She invited some of her friends from work, her boyfriend, and I invited 2 people from my own circle. Nothing wild, just snacks, drinks, and music. Here's where it gets weird. Earlier that day, I had already been out at a bridal shower where I drank way too many mimosas. By the time the housewarming rolled around, I was tipsy, tired, but trying to rally. Everyone seemed friendly. We were playing board games, music in the background, all normal. Then I ended up sitting next to Emily's boyfriend, Mark, 32M. He was polite, cracking jokes, seemed fine at first glance. But while talking to him, I noticed something off. He was wearing a pair of glasses. Not just normal prescription glasses, but those bulky, slightly futuristic-looking ones. My brain immediately went, wait, are those meta glasses? I froze for a second. I've seen enough videos online about smart glasses to know they can record audio, video, or even live stream without anyone realizing. Usually, there's supposed to be a little blinking light if they're recording, but I also know people tape over it or disable it. The moment I realized what I was looking at, my stomach dropped. I think he caught my expression shift because he tilted his head slightly like he was amused. I stuttered, tried to keep the conversation going about something random. I think I asked him about his job, but inside I was suddenly hyper-aware. Were these just fancy prescription glasses? Or was he sitting there recording the entire party, me included, without anyone knowing? At one point, he leaned back on the couch and adjusted the glasses with 2 fingers. In that very deliberate way you see people do when they're controlling something with touch sensors. I told myself I might be overthinking it, but the paranoia was creeping. In heart, I excused myself to the kitchen under the pretense of getting more chips, and texted my friend Hannah, who had already left the party earlier. I literally wrote, Emily's BF is wearing meta glasses. No blinking light. Am I crazy, or is that super sketch? She immediately called me. I whispered into the phone from the hallway. Explaining the whole situation, she said, Dude, that's a red flag. Nobody wears those casually unless they're either super into tech flexing or they're being creepy. She reminded me that prescription lenses in smart glasses are possible, but really expensive and uncommon. I felt stuck. I didn't want to accuse him of anything in front of everyone and make the party awkward, especially since Emily seemed blissfully unaware. But the thought of someone recording me while I was half drunk, sitting in sweatpants, hair frizzy from the rain earlier, was mortifying. Not to mention, what if he was recording Emily's friends too, without their knowledge? The worst part is, Emily's not American, and sometimes misses certain cultural red flags we might pick up on faster. She's very trusting, and I worried she didn't even realize her boyfriend's glasses could do more than just help him see. So I spent the rest of the night on edge, watching him out of the corner of my eye. Every time he looked in my direction, I felt like a bug under a microscope. At one point, I swore I heard a faint click noise near him, but maybe it was just someone setting down a glass. When people started leaving, I retreated to my room pretending I was tired. I locked the door, sat on my bed, and debated if I should bring it up to Emily. On one hand, I don't want to cause drama or seem paranoid. On the other, this isn't something you just ignore. My current plan is to ask her casually, in a non-accusatory way, something like, "Hey, does Mark wear prescription glasses? Because his looked super fancy. Are they like tech glasses?" That way, I'm framing it as curiosity, not an attack, but deep down, I feel uneasy. If he is using those glasses to record, that's a huge violation of privacy. Mine, hers, everyone's. And if she doesn't know, she deserves to. So now I'm torn. Do I risk sounding paranoid and bring this up to Emily? Or do I stay quiet and hope I just overthought the whole thing? Has anyone else dealt with people wearing smart glasses in social settings? Do people actually wear them for eyesight help? Or am I right to think this is more sinister than it looks? Because right now, every time I replay the night in my head, I can't shake the image of him smirking while those lenses stared back at me. Update. Talking to Emily about Mark's glasses. Okay. So I finally decided I had to say something to Emily. I couldn't stop thinking about those glasses, and the more I imagined the worst-case scenario, like him recording the whole party without permission, the more anxious I got. I waited until she and I were alone in the living room one evening. Her kids were at a sleepover, and Mark was out for a run, so it was the perfect private moment. I took a deep breath and said, "Hey, Emily, can I ask you something kind of weird?" She smiled, relaxed. "Of course, what's up?" I fumbled a little, trying to sound casual instead of accusatory. "So, the other night at the party, I noticed your glasses. Mark's glasses. They looked, really high-tech, like Meta glasses? I wasn't sure, and I just wanted to check with you. Are they prescription or something?" Emily tilted her head, looking genuinely confused. "Oh yeah, they're prescription, but they're those new smart lenses. He uses them for work sometimes, but he's always super careful about privacy. He wouldn't just record people. He's very private." I felt some relief, but my gut still wasn't totally convinced. "Okay. I guess that's good to know. I mean, it just caught me off guard because I didn't realize people wore glasses like that for actual prescription use." She laughed lightly. "I know. They look futuristic, but honestly, he's never used them to record anyone at a party. He usually only uses the smart features for calls or video meetings." I nodded, trying to process it. I asked a few more questions, like whether he had permissions set up for apps, or if the camera feature was on. And she seemed confident. Her explanation made sense. She described how he has a small office job in tech, and uses the glasses for quick virtual meetings while commuting or on the go still. I had to admit, I felt silly for freaking out a little. I explained to her how seeing them made me anxious, and that I wasn't accusing anyone of anything, just that it triggered a lot of nerves for me. Emily immediately understood and reassured me. She said, "I get it. I'd be cautious too if I saw someone wearing glasses like that, but I promise, you're safe here. I left it there for the night later." I texted Hannah about the conversation. Okay, so Emily totally believes me that I was paranoid. She explained everything about the glasses. I think I feel better. But I'm keeping an eye out for a bit just in case. Still weird seeing them at a party. After this, I started noticing a few things I hadn't before. Like how Mark's eyes sometimes subtly follow his phone notifications through the glasses, and how he rarely leaves the office or apartment without them. I realized it was less sinister, more a habit of his lifestyle. But I also understood why my instincts kicked in. If you don't know someone's tech habits, those glasses look weird as hell. I still feel a little twitchy around them. But at least now I'm not constantly imagining the worst. Emily and I even had a laugh about it the other day. "Emily, I knew you'd freak a little when you saw them, and me. Yeah, I looked like a full-on conspiracy theorist for 10 minutes, Emily. Better safe than sorry. Anyway, I guess the lesson here is, don't assume the worst, but trust your gut enough to ask questions and I'm planning to bring it up in a casual, non-accusatory way if it ever comes up at another party, like, "Oh hey, are your meta glasses still the work ones?" Just to keep the lines of communication open, so that's where I'm at. Not fully relaxed, but less panicked, fingers crossed. I don't spiral into full paranoia next time we have friends over. Final update. The next party, and putting my paranoia to rest, so, a couple of weeks after my last update, Emily and Mark invited a few friends over for another small get-together. I was nervous, but I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. I reminded myself that Emily had reassured me, and I wasn't going to jump to conclusions without reason. When I got there, Mark was wearing his meta glasses again. My heart started to race for a moment, but I took a deep breath and reminded myself, prescription glasses work, use. He's trustworthy. As the night went on, I noticed something I hadn't paid attention to before. Mark barely touched the camera or smart features at all during the party. Most of the time, he was chatting with Emily's friends, laughing, and helping with snacks. He didn't even pull out his phone much. Every time I caught a reflection of the glasses' lenses, I reminded myself, this is not sinister, it's just his work habit. At one point, I casually asked Emily, "Hey, so Mark's glasses, he really doesn't record at parties, right?" She chuckled. "No, I promise he would never do that without asking. They're work tools, not spy gear." That was enough to finally quiet the lingering unease in my mind over the rest of the evening. I found myself actually enjoying the party instead of scanning the room for secret recordings. I even joked to Emily later, "You know, for a while I thought I was living in a tech thriller movie." Emily, "Better safe than sorry, right?" Me, "True. But I owe Mark a big apology for suspecting him of espionage." After that night, I felt like a weight had lifted. I realized I had let my imagination run wild because I didn't understand the technology. I also realized it was important to communicate my concerns without accusing anyone. And Emily handled it wonderfully. She never made me feel judged for asking questions, and that made a huge difference. Now, whenever Mark wears his glasses around the house, I don't freak out. I even feel comfortable joining in conversations about work tech. When he brings them up, I've learned a valuable lesson about curiosity versus paranoia, and also that it's okay to ask questions when something feels off. So yeah, meta glasses at a party? Totally fine. My imagination, not so much. Stories number 11. My sister erased me from her wedding, so I walked out of the reception last weekend. My younger sister Emily 26F got married. I'm Anna 28F, her older sister, and I need to get this off my chest because the fallout has been insane. For context, I wasn't just a bridesmaid, I was basically her unpaid coordinator, accountant, chauffeur, and therapist for the last year and a half. When Emily got engaged to her now husband Ryan, she immediately went into panic mode because weddings are so expensive and she didn't know where to start. Naturally, I stepped in. At first it was small things like researching venues or making spreadsheets, but over time, it snowballed. I was the one calling vendors, driving her to fittings, running errands when she said she was too stressed, and literally fronting cash when she went over budget. Twice I paid deposits out of my own pocket because she forgot deadlines and the vendors were about to cancel. She promised she'd pay me back, but one of those bills still hasn't been covered. To give you an idea of how deep I was in this, Emily would text me at 1 a.m. about color palettes, call me during my workday to ask me to swing by Michael's for ribbon, and even once had me leave work early to meet with the DJ because she had a nail appointment. My own friends joked that I was basically her maid of honor, and her wedding planner rolled into one. The actual wedding day was beautiful. I'm not going to lie, she looked stunning. The ceremony was sweet. The reception started off really fun. I thought, okay, maybe this will all be worth it. Then came the speeches. Emily took the mic to give this heartfelt thank you. She went down this long list of people who made her day possible. Her new husband, his parents for their incredible generosity, Ryan's best man for always being there, her bridesmaids for looking so gorgeous, even our cousin Megan, who, I kid you not, only helped fold napkins for like 2 hours the week before. She did not mention me. Not once. I tried to brush it off. Maybe she just forgot in the moment, but later, I was standing with a group when someone half-jokingly said, "Anna basically planned this whole thing for you, huh?" Instead of acknowledging me, Emily laughed and said, "Well, yeah, But that's what sisters are for. Everyone laughed. I forced a smile. But inside, I felt like I had been slapped. I can't even explain how small I felt in that moment. Months of my life, thousands of dollars, countless hours, and my role was reduced to, "That's what sisters are for," like I was just free labor with no need for acknowledgement. I sat there for a few minutes, trying not to cry, and realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit through dessert and dancing, pretending I was fine. So I quietly gathered my things, slipped out, and drove home. I didn't make a scene. I didn't confront her. I didn't yell. I just left. Well, apparently my quiet exit wasn't quiet enough, because word got back to Emily fast by the next morning. My phone was blowing up. My mom told me I ruined Emily's night and made it all about me. Emily texted me paragraphs calling me jealous, petty, and selfish for walking out on her special day. Ryan even chimed in, saying I embarrassed his wife and made the family look bad. Some family members are on my side. A couple of aunts and cousins texted me saying they noticed the snub and thought it was cruel, but the majority are acting like I committed a crime. My dad told me I should have just sucked it up because a wedding isn't about you. I keep replaying it in my head. I didn't expect a medal, but I thought I'd at least be acknowledged. And if she had just said something kind, anything, I would have stayed and celebrated all night instead. I felt used and dismissed, like all that time and effort meant nothing. Now Emily is doubling down, saying she doesn't owe me thanks because sisters are supposed to help each other, and I'm not entitled to praise. Maybe I shouldn't have left. Maybe I should have swallowed my pride and stayed to keep the peace. But in that moment, staying felt like agreeing with her that I was just background help, not even worthy of being recognized, so yeah. That's the story of how I walked out of my sister's wedding reception. And now half my family thinks I'm the villain. Update. My sister erased me from her wedding, so I walked out of the reception. It's been about 2 weeks since Emily's wedding, and I wish I could say things calmed down, but they didn't. If anything, it's turned into one of the messiest family dramas I've ever lived through. The morning after the wedding, I ignored most of the calls. I needed space. I finally answered one from my mom, and she was furious. She said I ruined Emily's dream day and humiliated the family. I calmly told her I didn't ruin anything. I just quietly left because I was hurt. My mom's response? "You're the older sister. It's your job to let things go." That line hit me like a brick. It felt like my whole childhood condensed into one sentence. I've always been the one expected to suck it up, to smooth things over, to step aside for Emily. I decided right then I wasn't going to keep playing that role. Later that week, Emily texted me this long rant accusing me of being jealous of her happiness, trying to steal the spotlight, and making her look bad in front of Ryan's family. She ended it with, "You're not owed thanks for being a decent sister," and didn't respond immediately. Instead, I screenshotted her text and sent it to my Aunt Linda, who's basically the only person in my family who ever calls Emily out. Linda called me right away and said, "Honey, you're not crazy. Everyone saw what happened. She humiliated you, and now she's twisting it to make herself the victim." That call gave me some backbone. A few days later, Emily tried to call me again, and when I didn't pick up, she left a voicemail sobbing about how all anyone remembers about my wedding is that my sister stormed out. I played it back 3 times, just to be sure nobody remembered how I quietly walked out. They remembered how she failed to acknowledge me. That's on her, not me. Then came the money issue. Remember how I covered a couple of deposits for her vendors? Well, one of them emailed me directly about an overdue balance. Turns out Emily never fully paid her florist, and my card was still on file from when I put the initial deposit down. The florist politely asked if I could settle it since the bride hadn't. I nearly lost it. I called Emily immediately, and she acted all confused like, "Oh, I thought I already paid that." I told her flat out, "Emily, I am not paying another dime for your wedding. You owe me $800 already, and until you pay me back, don't ask me for anything." She got defensive and accused me of being money-obsessed and keeping score. At that point, I said, "Damn right, I'm keeping score. You turned me into your personal assistant for over a year, and when it came time to thank me, you erased me. I'm done." And I hung up. Since then, the family has split into camps. My mom and dad are firmly on Emily's side. No surprise there. My dad hasn't said much beyond, You'll regret this when you're older and don't have your sister. My mom keeps repeating the same line. Family doesn't keep score, but some of my extended family has my back. My Aunt Linda and cousin Megan, the napkin folder, both told Emily off for how she treated me. Megan even admitted she felt awkward being thanked in the speech when I wasn't. Apparently, a few guests noticed too, and Emily is mortified because people have been gossiping that she snubbed her maid of honor. I wasn't even maid of honor. I was just a bridesmaid who did the work. Here's the kicker. Ryan's mom actually reached out to me privately. She said she noticed how much I did for the wedding and how strange it was that Emily didn't acknowledge me. She even apologized on Emily's behalf. That floored me. Ryan's mom has known me for maybe 3 years, and she treated me with more respect than my own sisters for Emily. She's still stonewalling me unless it's about money. She finally Venmo'd me $300 last night, with the note, "Partial payback, stop harassing me." I didn't respond, but I took screenshots in case I need receipts later. Honestly, I don't know where our relationship goes from here. I don't want to cut her off completely, but I also don't see myself ever forgetting how disposable she made me feel. And the fact that she doubled down instead of apologizing makes it worse right now. I'm keeping my distance. No calls, no texts, no family dinners. I've been spending more time with friends and with my aunt, who says I did the right thing by finally drawing a line, if nothing else. I learned this. Sometimes family will drain you dry if you let them, and then act shocked when you finally stop pouring. Final update. I walked out of my sister's wedding reception and everything that followed. So it's been a couple of months now, and things have finally settled into a new normal. Though I wouldn't exactly call it peace after my last update. Emily kept dragging her feet on paying me back. I had screenshots of everything. Receipts, Venmo transfers, and texts where she admitted I covered deposits. So I finally told her point blank, if you don't pay me the remaining $500 by the end of this month, I'm filing in small claims. She blew up, saying I was destroying our relationship over a few bucks, and that I should let it go for the sake of family. I didn't budge. And guess what? 2 days before my deadline, the rest of the money showed up in my account. No apology, no note, just the transfer. Honestly, that was the clearest message she sent me yet. That keeping me around is worth exactly $500 to her. As for my parents, things got ugly. My mom tried to organize what she called a family dinner to clear the air, but it was basically an ambush. I showed up, and within 5 minutes she and my dad were lecturing me about forgiveness, telling me I owe it to Emily to be there for her marriage, and that my leaving the wedding will haunt our family forever. Emily sat there crying, saying she just wanted a perfect day and I ruined it. That's when I lost it. I told them, Emily ruined it the moment she decided my work didn't matter. You've spent my whole life teaching me my role is to sacrifice and be quiet. And I'm done. If you can't respect that I deserve basic gratitude and respect, then don't expect me to show up to every family gathering smiling like nothing happened. It was one of those moments where the air gets sucked out of the room. My dad told me I was dramatic. My mom said I'd regret alienating everyone. Emily stormed off crying, and I walked out right after her. But in the opposite direction, that was the last time I saw them all together. Since then, I've been low contact. I talk to my mom maybe once every 2 weeks. Short calls only. I haven't spoken to my dad in over a month. And Emily? We're not speaking at all. She tried texting me once about how I should be the bigger person for Thanksgiving, and I just replied, "You still haven't apologized until then. There's nothing to talk about." She left me on red. On the flip side, I've gotten closer to my Aunt Linda and cousin Megan. They've made it clear they have my back, and spending time with them has been refreshing. No guilt trips, no walking on eggshells, no being treated like an accessory to my sister's life, just normal family stuff. And the biggest surprise, Ryan's mom, my sister's MIL, still checks in on me occasionally. She sent me a sweet message around the holidays saying, "Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are. I saw how much you did, and I'm grateful for you." I almost cried reading it. It's wild when your sister's mother-in-law treats you with more kindness than your own parents. Where do things stand now? Honestly, I'm okay with the distance. I used to think family loyalty meant putting up with anything, but now I see it differently. Loyalty without respect is just servitude. I'm not willing to keep giving endlessly to people who only see me as background support. Do I miss my sister? In a way, yeah, we used to laugh together. And before all this, I really did want to be close to her, but that door doesn't reopen without her taking accountability. And I don't think she's capable of that right now. Maybe one day, maybe never for now. I'm focusing on myself, my job, my friends, and the family members who actually value me. Walking out of that reception wasn't the end of my relationship with my sister. It was the beginning of setting boundaries with my entire family. And honestly, I don't regret it for a second.